Can I show you something that's just always blown my mind? The average Canadian spends about $16,644 per year on a vehicle. That's like $1,387 a month, you name it. Depreciation, gas, maintenance, insurance, all that stuff kind of comes into play in that value. And I always just kind of go back to like the Einstein quote that compound interest is like one of the 8 wonders of the world. And it's just crazy that if you could just avoid owning that vehicle at $16,644 annually over 30 years. I'm 32. You know, if I don't plan on retiring till 65, I got 30 years of investing ahead of me. If I just make market average returns, like global market ETF like returns, I could be banking millions of dollars if it wasn't for those vehicle costs. And I always kind of go back to what Dave Ramsey says, because this guy, if you don't know him, he really kind of pushes this idea that you should never buy a new vehicle unless you have a net worth of $1 million, because the depreciation is just so large that it really prevents you from ever getting ahead. It's like one of the biggest, chain and balls to financial freedom. And as my wife and I last year surpassed the $1 million mark, I think one of the biggest defining factors to us becoming Canadian millionaires was the fact that my car barely cost me, it's just under $500 a month, which means I'm only almost saving $1,000 a month, or $12,000 incomparable, right, to the insane $16,000. But let's just do a really quick math, like at how cheap that is at the same price. Like I could easily bank a couple $1 million with the money that I've been saving, that I have been investing in the market. So if you're on a path to financial independence, if one day you want to retire early, join me on that journey. Hit that subscribe, because I recently took my car to get fixed and I really thought it was going to be a major repair, and it turned out to only be a couple $100. I am driving a 2016 Hyundai hatchback that I bought back in 2019 for $7,800, which was crazy. It had 133,000 kilometers on it, and now I'm crossing the 210,000 kilometers limit. I put about 80,000 on it since I've owned it, and it's hardly costed me anything in repairs. It's been super cheap on gas. And when we look up the black book value on it today, it is still worth somewhere between $2,800 and $5,900, which means I've only lost about 50% of the value. In fact, I'd probably take it to a scrapyard and still get probably over $1,000 if I was lucky for it. And this just absolutely, blows my mind, because there's so much stigma about buying cars. A lot of people think there's no reliability in buying used cars. I always have bought used cars privately. I've never bought from a dealership once. And a lot of people are hounding me right now with a higher net worth and all this stuff that, go buy a nicer car, you can afford a really nice car. But my ego doesn't live in owning a nice car. The only way I'd buy a car is if self-driving was there, like really, really good, because I think it's worth buying a car if it has full self-driving, because I'm just lazy and I hate driving. I've driven a lot over my life, but I want a car that if somebody hits it, if it gets scratched, I don't have to care. I want to be able to write a car off and not have it take up any mental space whatsoever. I just live in this kind of passive mindset that family, my time, traveling is more valued to me than having things and ownership over things. Because things, you don't own them. They own you, right? And I always just feel like cars are one of the worst things that people just get so inflicted by. So I really want to just break down a few ways that I go about buying used cars. So hopefully you can learn something from this and you can apply it to your own financial independence journey. I think there's some real value in this, especially just this whole idea got just pinged when I had to get this repair done, and I was shocked at how cheap it was. A couple $100, caliper issue, whatever, right? But my car, I love just scrolling around and seeing what people are selling them for with similar kilometers on them, and just seeing what dealerships are selling them for, because typically dealerships are just completely ripping people off. But ideally what I'll do before I go look for a used car is I kind of ask myself, like, what is the reliability? Like, let me look at 3 different models of cars. I'll go Google best reliable cars. Here, Google's telling us Lexus, Toyotas, Subarus, cheap for repairs, reliable cars. So I'll take a look. Okay, Toyotas, I like Toyotas. They're cool cars. Hondas, so then what I'm going to do is Google, like, what's the average life expectancy of these different models? How long are they going to last? I'm going to start doing due diligence, just like I would be buying a company, because this is just as expensive as making an investment in a stock for most people, right? If you're looking to make a $10,000 or $20,000 investment in some kind of stock, you really want to make sure you know what you're buying. So basically, like my little car, they say they typically last 15 to 20 years on average, and they usually go for about $200,000 200,000 kilometers, but some people get up to 300. So if I'm lucky, my car's, barely passing that decade mark. And if I'm very lucky, it's still relatively maintained, that maybe I'll get another 1 or 2 good years out of it. Maybe I can push it to 250K if I'm lucky. Time will tell here, but with the kilometers I have on it, this is why I'm, just kind of getting prepared now, because I've never bought a car on a whim. I have always been very methodical. I've owned several cars in my life, all used. I used to drive a lot when I was a full-time magician. I went through cars like crazy because I had to tow. I had to drive a lot all over the city. But nowadays, I'm not driving as much, so I just want something cheap that's easy to park in the city, easy to bomb around in, cheap on insurance, because I don't care. My ego does not live in the car. I don't need a Lamborghini, guys. I have no desire in the world to want to own a sports car, and I've rented them. Don't get me wrong, they're fun. I've taken them on tracks. I've taken Lambos and Porsches and whipped them around racetracks, and you can do it for a few $100. It's kind of crazy how cheap it is to take a sports car on a racetrack, if you actually look into it. If you want to kind of get that rush, so long as you're not living in that realm of ego of I need to impress people, right? But still, I'll look for something like this. And recently I've come across like a lot of people saying that like the Toyota Prius is probably one of the best vehicles you can own because you can get hybrids. And this is kind of what I'm leaning toward, but I'm kind of a little depressed because I'm hoping my little car can continue to run, that little train that could, I guess, just because I do not want to, I really don't want to have to go buy a car anytime soon, but I know the day is coming and I know I'm never going to get that good of a deal again. I think if you're spending $5,000 on a car today, it might, like, you probably get good to get maybe 1 or 3 years out of it. But if I want to get 5 or 10 years out of it, I'm probably gonna have to spend somewhere between 10 and 20 grand. And I'll literally just go on Kijiji, I'll go on Facebook Marketplace, and I'll start looking up Toyota Priuses, and I'll just start seeing where they are in my area. Obviously I live in Toronto, very condensed area, so a lot of cars do pop up. And high mileage doesn't bother me. I don't care if it's out of warranty, because a lot of people think you're gonna get a lemon and they're very fearful. But honestly, I find you'll find the right person. I'm gonna look at multiple of these. I'm not just gonna buy the first one I see. If I find something that's at a good value, so maybe something like it's got 140 or somewhere around 100K on it, or maybe less, because I bought that Hyundai with 133,000 on it and it's lasted this long, right? But if you can find something like, here's a 2017 with 90,000 on it, 2017 with 103 on it. So maybe what I would do is say, hey, like, this seems to be a pretty good deal. Let me go check it out. Let me go see what the owner's like, right? Because I'm not going to go to a dealership. Don't go to a dealership, guys. Don't even trade your car in at a dealership. They're only going to give you half of what that car's worth. And then when you go and buy a new car, they're going to mark it up because they want to make their margins on it. So you're getting ripped off for the trade-in. You're getting ripped off for the new car you're buying. You're better off selling it privately and buying it privately, especially because you can negotiate like the dealerships do. A lot of people you can really negotiate with, like I did, because the guy that was trying to sell me that Hyundai Accent wanted 8,500 or 9,000, and I got him down into the 7K mark, which was just incredible, right? So what I'll do is I'll go look, see the owner. Does he have all the maintenance reports? Did he keep the oil change receipts? Is the car clean? Is the guy respectable? Is he parking the car underground? Does he live in a condo, or is he parking it outside? Is it, did he undercoat the car? Is it rusty? Is there rust anywhere? Is there a lot of dirt buildup in the engine? What do the brake pads look like? Like, these are all things that I've been through buying used cars, and I'll check it out myself. But then of course I will always, if it's something that I think looks good and it's in condition, then I go to the next step of, okay, I'm intrigued here. Let me go get a mechanic to look at it. And then we'll have a mechanic go over it. And if everything is sound, the car looks like it's in good condition, the brakes still got some mileage on them, whatever, then I'll be like, okay, so here's the price you want. Let's negotiate the price. If we can come to a deal, bada bing, bada boom, I'm going to have my car, right? But otherwise, I'll just move on to the next one. But trust me, I have done this so many times, and I see cars where they're just dirty. They don't bother to clean them out. Like, you can get a sense of the pride that the owner has in the vehicle. And then I do exactly what Dave Ramsey says. Like, I will drive that car until it's dead. There's no point getting another car if it's still working, because it's still squeezing out that value that I can put back into the market and get that compounded rate of return. And I love living like this. A lot of people don't. A lot of people's egos reside in stuff, but I sit here very comfortably owning a very reasonable condo, respectable for my wife and I. The fact that we've been able to afford a condo in the city of Toronto at our age, being millennials, the fact that we've been able to hit $1 million net worth between all our assets and our stock portfolio. And I love that we still are in a place where we have zero debt, with the exception of the mortgage that we have. And I'm using the extra money that my car isn't costing me to pay down the mortgage quicker and put that extra money back into the market. Now, I'm hoping this video is a little bit educational for you guys, and I would love to know what car you're driving. thinking, how you approach the auto market, because I know a lot of people do it differently. A lot of people are fine with dealerships. You don't have to take anything I say into consideration. It's just my personal opinions, but I'd love to know what you think in that comment section below.